finished it. That was well,
How are you?
I didn't make it. Paper.
It's a lot of names in your head.
I know.
Like I had to print it out on paper and then
I will definitely keep that in mind.
it's temporary.
Yeah.
For the, I think the apartment.
He makes
When the full
Get it from everybody.
Mm-hmm. You're on the list. Mm-hmm. You're voluntary.
last minute, but I don't think we have to take the whole meeting. I would ask Heather. For like quick baby Tuesdays.
Final.
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, I plan on being here
Yeah.
every single time. We're able to attend. We got a phone call.
This is
Good podium.
we'll go over it by baby.
Good point. And then if I can't, that it's way over there. Maybe we
To the
can
tape. Mm-hmm.
hear that.
Well, here.
Shall we move?
This is a effort.
So, you know, and then I give her the face and he goes, you look again. About 2 years. Just not a happy day. Egg meal, you know. And it's a, when you leave. You do any marketing group?
Yeah.
You guys ready? Call to order. Board of Adjustment. May 24th, 2017. Roll call.
Chairman Elliott, Mr. Urbalski,
Here.
Mr. Burris,
Yeah.
Mr. Eisner,
Here.
Mr. Turner. I mean, Miss Turner, sorry.
Here.
Mr. Glenzer.
Here.
Okay. First on the agenda, approval of minutes. Can we get an agreement just to move that to the end of the agenda for now? You good with that?
I have no problem with that.
Good.
Problem.
All right, so we're going to move on. Quasi-judicial announcement and swearing of speakers.
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Adjustment acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board here tonight wishing to disclose any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak this evening, if you could please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do.
So sworn.
Okay. Application number 17-37, variance to reduce the required 25-foot front yard setback to 20 feet, continued from April 26, 2017 meeting. Location 44 Central Court, applicant Michael and Nancy Busager. All right, so we will hear the statement from the staff, please.
Thank you again. This application is to authorize a variance to reduce the required 20-foot
front yard setback to 20 foot to reconstruct a house on a lot. The house is located in the R70 the R70 zoning district. The dimensional criteria for the front yard is a 25-foot setback. With that, staff's going to go through the findings of fact, unless you really want me to read through all of the criteria. That's up to the board, but I'm going to go through the findings of fact and then take any questions that you may have to move us along when I get there. All right. The request again is to reduce the 25-foot front setback to 20 foot to reconstruct a house on the lot. There is no physical hardship associated with the request. The lot is regular in shape and exceeds the minimum lot square footage of 7,000 square feet and the other dimensional criteria of the R70 district. The requested variance is a self-created hardship. The limited interpretation of the requirements of the Land Development Code would not deny the applicant reasonable use of the property. The granting of the variance would extend a special privilege to the applicant. The granting of the variance would not diminish property values. The request does not conform to the general intent of the LDC or policies of the comprehensive plan. With that, staff is recommending denial of the requested variance to reduce the 25-foot front yard setback to 20 feet to reconstruct a house on the lot. Basically, because this request does not meet the review criteria established in 215.02B and 215.02.5 of the Land Development Code. And I can answer any questions that you may have with this application.
Any questions from the board?
No, Jay.
I do. On this block, is this house the closest to the street?
It would be, yes.
I'm referring to before the setback with the way it is right now.
Well, the way it is right now, let's see, let me look at the survey. This is a new home going on to the property.
Right, but I'm talking about the present home that's on there now. Is that the closest one?
I honestly don't know if it's the closest one of all the houses there because I don't measure the setback look at the front setbacks for all of the houses on the district. I look at the district setbacks based on that lot. So I look at the specific lot criteria based on this particular lot, not the neighborhood and we don't do front average lot adjustments here. So as a result, we just look at with this particular house, not what's in comparison to the neighborhood.
Anything else?
What I'm referring to, there's no page numbers on here, is this particular picture here.
Mm-hmm.
It has a topographic type view, and it looks that it is set very close to the street with a very large back area. That's all I was referring to. But I don't know if that conforms with the rest of the houses on that block.
Well, any house that was built after 1990 had to conform with the zoning district, okay? Anything that was built prior to 1990, it wasn't required to meet with today's setbacks because today's setbacks weren't in place. So many of the homes that are all throughout this area have varying dates of construction. As a result, anything that was before 1990 may be closer to the street than what's allowed currently in the zoning district.
Well, I'm going on section 3 of your denial. It says that the applicant has reasonable use of the property. The property is large enough to accommodate the reconstruction of a home within the required setbacks. But that would only be true if they were to take the pool out and move it. That
Reasonable use of a pool. A pool is an amenity to a property. It's not we don't provide a pool for every house or area for a pool for every house. We're looking at the criteria specifically for putting one house, a reasonable sized house, on a piece of property, and that's something that can be met with the setbacks that are allowed in the district, being that the lot is larger than what we require for this district.
Now, the house next to it has a garage extremely close to the street. Is that correct?
And I would just say that it doesn't matter what the house next to it has. That's not what this application.
I understand that. I was just asking a question, though.
I honestly do not know because I did not investigate the house next door and what was there and what wasn't there. We
Okay.
look to post the sign, and that's all that we look for because the neighborhood is not what we're reviewing in this particular case. We're just reviewing this particular property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff from the board? All right, then we'll hear from the applicant. Yeah, please go to the podium and state your name.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come before the board and appreciate your time. My name is Mike Boser. I am the property owner. I purchased the property back in November of last year. When we purchased the property, originally our design or our desire was to hopefully renovate the home, bring it up to current standards. And as we've reviewed that process, we realized with the cost of doing that and what we were hoping to accomplish, we would need to bring it up to current code. So there were certain criteria and issues that deemed difficult. Having gone through that process now and looking at the existing property, which is a very nice piece of property, our intention is to bring up the property value. We were trying to determine a house that we could get that would fit on that property and not hopefully cause the least amount of disturbance to the adjacent property owners. My concern was that the home that I wanted to build, ultimately, if I tried to go further back into the property, that it would cause more of a disturbance and a problem for the adjacent property owners than it would be if I actually could keep as much of the rear structure, ultimately the pool, which is an elevated pool structure, in place and renovate it as an existing structure. Ultimately, that would require me to come forward somewhat. And then when I realized that, it would ultimately come within the setback criteria. So my hopes were that I could get that additional 5 feet and not have to go farther back into the property, because in my opinion, it impacts the adjacent properties more so to go backwards than it does to come slightly forwards. As I reviewed, and I know it's probably not pertinent, but the adjacent properties throughout all of Central Court have multiple structures that are built well within the setback criteria. I realize they were probably built prior to the current code. I also noted that there's about a 15-foot easement in the front of the property before you get to the property line, and then there's another 25-foot criteria setback. So that's about a 40-foot offset off the road edge. So I thought, well, I mean, it might be worth the opportunity to come before the board and express those opinions and hopefully try to get the variance. Once again, I feel like it's less of an impact on the adjacent properties and property values if I'm farther off the water line and allow the adjacent properties to have a better view of the water than it would be to go farther back into the property and obstruct that view, which in my opinion is really the property value.
Any questions for the applicant from the board?
I have one. You're rebuilding a whole new house, right?
Eventually, that's what I'm hoping to do, yes.
And the current structure, just to help me understand, that if you're facing the street to the left of it, it looks like it's set at an angle to the property line next to your neighbors.
It's at a slight angle, yes.
So that far back corner, if I'm reading the code requirement right, it's supposed to be 7.5 feet. Is that still in the same footprint, or are you much further than 7.5 feet right now with your current structure?
If you're looking at the proposed, well, and this is modified a little bit, but the proposed floor plan on the survey, the far left side of the house, which is actually the garage, is well off the 7.5 foot setback to the side property line. If you're looking at the right-hand side of the house, it's basically right on the edge of the 7.5 foot setback, if that's your question. You should have a survey there in your package.
I'm looking for the proposed floor plan back towards the end. Sorry.
It's like the 5th page from the back, I think. Well, on my copy, you probably have your full board copy for the whole meeting.
Yeah. I see. So it's actually It's actually scooted further to the right of the property than it is the left.
Yes, it's actually very close to what the existing house is right now, to be honest with you. The only real difference that I've done between the existing house and this house is the existing house is almost right at the 25-foot setback line right now, as it's constructed.
All right. That answered my question. Thank you.
Okay,
If I may, question, sir?
yes.
Probably easier to reference this photograph that you have of the front of the house labeled current subject property frontage.
Of the existing house right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It, you have that, y'all see that photo referencing? On here, can you please help us visualize where the 20-foot versus the 25-foot setback would be, just as a point of reference? Like, would it be the front of the driveway, the back of the driveway?
If you look at the front porch line, and can I just come over and look at that picture you're looking at? 'Cause I
Yeah,
don't think I have
with the
that
couple
copy.
steps that you have going up to the front door? Is that what you're talking about?
This is almost in line with the top. A little bit offset of
The 20-foot or 25-foot?
the 25-foot right now. It's right on that front edge.
So you're like right on the,
It's existing right on the 25
Existing.
foot.
Okay.
If I come in 5 foot, I'm basically coming in right in
to the beginning of your driveway?
there. Yeah, a little bit less, but close to that.
Right. Kind of that,
That's a good
that planted
visual
bed area.
variance to kind of gauge what that is, correct?
thank you, sir.
Any other questions of the applicant from the board?
Yeah, just to clarify, you're not needing the entire 5 feet across the entire house because you're gonna do away with the circular driveway and make a straight-in driveway, correct?
Well, I may still have some circular driveway. I haven't determined that yet. I'm still trying to figure out the final configuration. But in terms of like the porch, there will be no extended porch out in front on the new house compared to the existing house.
But in the in this drawing.
Yeah,
of
this
the-
schematic, this is like the initial schematic that shows the driveways, but it doesn't show any kind of circular driveway in the front of the house. That's correct. But I haven't really decided whether to do or not do that yet. Does that fall within the 25, this driveway doesn't fall within the 25-foot setback criteria, does it?
That would be a question of staff.
The driveway is immaterial to the setback. It,
Right.
it has its own dimensional criteria that have to be met. It doesn't have specific setback requirements it doesn't have to meet the specific setback requirements for the district. It has its own design criteria.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did the staff include these pictures for us to consider?
Those pictures were included, I believe, by the applicant and provided
Yeah,
by
right,
the
I included-
applicant.
I'm asking the staff if we are to consider these pictures in our decision.
They were provided to you by the applicant as proof, as part of his record. So it is part of the record for you to consider, and you're going to have to determine what, if anything, is substantial competent evidence.
And I will tell you that even though it was provided by the applicant, as I've said before, we were only to consider the application before you and the actual property. So what their neighbors have is not relevant to the application that's before you. Even though the applicant has the ability to provide whatever they want.
Okay.
So that's why it's in your packet.
Then in that case, it works both ways. These homes are further back on the 30-foot easement. The adjacent house, it doesn't say which one is it, to the left or to the right. But it seems that it is in the 30-foot easement, right?
It's within the easement, is that what you're saying?
Yes, 30
Yeah.
feet.
At the top of that, there should be like an address number right on top of that picture, or what does it say on the top of that picture? So I know which one you're looking
It
at.
says south of the subject property.
Can I just look at that one real quick? Okay, yes, that's the adjacent home. To the
Okay.
left of me, that's correct.
So,
This home farther down is actually closer. It's actually closer than 25%.
So the adjacent homes are 30 feet,
That particular one to the left is, the one to the right is not. That's
and the
correct.
one to the north, the only objection you have is that the small garage that they have,
Well, I have no objection to anything.
right,
I'm just showing what's
as a
existing.
reason,
Huh?
as a reason for you asking.
Well,
for-
I'm just showing, I wanted to show pictures of different homes on that whole street, so you got an idea of what the street looked like top to bottom.
Okay, we are not to consider any of this according to the staff, but on the other hand, you're including this for us to see how far back they are, correct?
I have no problem with you looking at the whole road, none whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple. I just have one question. There are 2 trees in front of your house, to the left side of your door and the right side of your door. Will they be removed? Because I believe they're going to be within your 5 foot, should that.
There is one, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know why I don't have that picture. Let me look at it again.
I see 2.
Yeah, this one.
There's a little
Yeah,
one,
that
double
little
here.
one and that one would probably have to be removed, yes. The 2 the big oaks, I wanted to save those, though,
Sure.
with every intention, I want to protect those trees. The other trees, smaller ones. But yes, they may have to be.
So then my question to staff, is there any issues with that?
He will have to, during his permitting process, ask for a tree removal permit.
Mhm.
And during that process, they'll determine what, if any, mitigation he has to provide as a result of removing those trees if they're ultimately approved to be removed.
Thank you again.
Any other questions? All right, so at this point, we will ask if anyone from the public would like to come forward and speak for the application. Seeing none, is there anyone in the public who would like to come forward and speak against the application? Seeing none. And any rebuttal by staff or the applicant, any of this?
No.
Okay. Oh, right, that was in the application. There, notices were sent within 200 feet. Did you receive anything?
No.
Okay. Then we will deliberate. Would you like to make any comments amongst yourself?
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, we'll go for a motion.
I have a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll call for a vote.
Mr. Glenzer,
I vote no.
Ms. Turner,
Yes?
Mr. Eisner,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes,
Mr. Abowski.
Yes. Okay. You have 2 years to complete your project. Application 17-40, variance to reduce the required rear yard setback from 30 to 20 feet, location 100 Shore Drive, applicant Rudy L. Arnotts.
This application was previously, came before this board and actually was approved in its current form. Essentially, what the applicant is actually asking for at this time is for another 2-year extension. Because we did not receive the application during the 30 days before, and you can only actually approve a 6-month extension under our extension, they have to come back through the process. So essentially what you're seeing is the exact same application and information that was approved in 2015. It's just, at this point in time, he's asking for additional 2 years to construct. I can answer any questions you want to go with this. I just want to spend a lot of time going through
Right.
entire things that the board's already approved this. It's just a situation where they've run out of time before getting their building permit. So that's essentially why we're here tonight.
So do you want to have a word as the applicant? Just please state your name and your address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Rudy Arnouts. I'm the property owner. I'm here with my attorney, Mr. Tom Balearis. As staff just pointed out, it is indeed the exact same application that was previously approved. It meets all of the 6 criteria. It's a non-conforming lot of record in an R100 zoning district with a standard lot width of 75 feet. I've got 24 feet. So about a third of that, obviously. And this application that was approved was actually the following up the recommendations from staff on a previous variance application that was denied because I was actually originally trying to build it closer to Tallahassee Drive and reduce that setback. That got denied. And instead, what I was asked to do was line the house up with the contiguous house and build more towards the back, which certainly has the least amount of impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And the last thing I will add is the buildable footprint without the setback reduction is only 1,050 square feet. Sure, you could go 2 stories, of course, but you know the minimum heated square footage for a single-family home there is 1,200 square feet. So.
Okay, so I do recall you coming to us a couple of times, and you finally got it passed. So
Right.
What was the holdup on building?
It's a long story.
Okay.
It's not for a lack of trying. I'm dealing with people from all over the world. I'm putting a bunch of different technologies together. My brother has his own building system in Europe. I'll spare you the family drama. Working with family doesn't. It's not for lack of trying.
And do it in the next 2 years?
No, I definitely expect to do it I'm actually expecting my design concept any day this week.
Okay.
And I've since purchased another site 400 feet from there, and that's in structural engineering. So I plan to build.
Okay. So any questions from the board for the applicant?
No.
All right. Any public comments? Anyone that would like to speak for the applicant or against the applicant? Seeing none. Any rebuttal by staff?
No.
So then we will close that portion. We'll go for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Then we shall go for a vote.
Mr. Glenzer,
Vote yes.
Ms. Turner,
Yes?
Mr. Eisner,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Obowski.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And we don't want to see you here in 2 years again.
Okay, so now we've got approval of minutes. We've got regular session, March 29th, 2017. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, why not? Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And call for a vote.
Mr. Glenzer,
Approve.
Ms. Turner,
Approve?
No, excuse me. They were not present. Can they
Oh,
vote?
Exactly.
recruit.
They can. I'm
I
sorry.
can? Okay.
Mr. Eisner,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Obowski.
Yes. Then we have the minutes for
I just have
regular
a-
session,
I just
April
have a question.
26,
How can-
2017.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's an administrative function. It's not making a judgment, it's not making a judicial decision or a quasi-judicial decision, it's just an administrative function.
Okay.
But,
Approve
but you're approving
as to form.
minutes that they weren't here for.
Right.
Okay, you
And-
learned
and I
something.
know, and just saying like y'all do a roll call vote, you don't have to do that either. You can approve by ayes and nays. It's an administrative.
I was on the.
Okay, so then we're going for approval of regular session, April 26, 2017. Do we have a motion?
Motion. You have a motion from me.
Okay. A second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We call for the vote.
Mr. Glenzer,
Approve?
Ms. Turner,
Approve?
Mr. Eisner,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Obowski.
Yes. staff comments?
Just have one comment. Just a reminder that you are going to have a joint meeting with the Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, May 30th. Since we're already past the 20th, it'll be the 30th, which is the day after Memorial Day. We will be upstairs in the upstairs conference room. So the expectation of the city manager is that everyone will attend from this board. So I will send you out a packet of information as soon as the board packet is available. For BOC, you will get an email with me with that information. It'll include the agenda and radiation of the same thing I just said, that it's a mandatory attendance, and the expectation is that everyone will be there. That's all that I have.
Any board comments?
We'll be there.
All right, so I'd like to get Jackie and John just a moment to introduce themselves and maybe tell us a little bit about themselves. So, Jackie, if you would go.
I'm Jackie Turner, and thank you so much for having me. I was on the Citizens Academy, the first class, and wanted to become active in the community. I work for Baycare in behavioral health, serving the behavioral health needs of colleges throughout the state. And native Floridian, one of the rare ones, and just love being in Tarpon and want to give back.
Well,
Thank you.
welcome.
My name is John Glenzer, and I've been in Florida longer than I've been anywhere in my life. I was raised kind of in the Navy, so my dad moved me around quite a bit, and my career kept moving me around quite a bit. And through being in Florida long enough working in the TV business, found a home in Tarpon that I'm working on over the last 8 years. And now, over the last 2 years, been able to live there now finally. And I just love the community and wanted to start getting involved, and had an opportunity to meet Heather, and just really felt compelled to get involved and do what I can do.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anything else? And we shall adjourn at 7:30.
Well done. Easy. Oh, sorry, we're done for the day.
To appeal one of your decisions?
Yes, sir. We have an attorney right there.
I cannot advise you what to do.
Oh.
I represent the board. I do not represent. The process would be contained in the Code of Ordinances, and so you'd have to check that. I don't know offhand what it is. But if I had to spitball, and don't hold me to this, I want to say it's you have to appeal within 30 days of the decision. It would be to the appellate division of the Sixth Circuit, maybe. I don't know. It might be to the BOC. I have to look it up.
Variance requirement for the variance request was for rear setback from 30 to 20 feet.
Okay. Well, like I said, you're going to need to check the Code of Ordinances to see
Well,
exactly
it
what
was-
it is.
this was again
I
was a
can't advise you one
rehearing,
way or the other,
since
so.
it didn't change. We didn't go through all the same thing. We went through the same criteria.
That would be